The text message came through at 6:47 a.m., and Elora Michael's world fractured before she even opened her eyes. Do not walk down that aisle, or you will be trapped forever. Meet me at Ambw, apartment 1504. Please, come alone. This is about Min Jae, Ji-woo, Elora's sister-in-law, warned via text message. It was supposed to be an exciting morning for Elora Michael, but instead, she slipped out of the hotel, climbed into a cab wearing jeans and a hoodie instead of her custom gown, racing toward an address that would destroy everything. When Elora arrived at the apartment in Ambw, she found exactly what Ji-woo warned her about: a woman, a child, and a contract that proved her entire relationship was a farce. But instead of canceling the wedding, Elora made a choice that would break the internet and ruin a family's empire. Before we get into the story, I want you to do something for me real quick. If you're watching from Seoul, New York, Accra, United States, or literally anywhere on this planet, drop your city in the comments right now. Let me know how global this family is. And while you're down there, smash that subscribe button, like, and also share the story. This way, you are not just helping us grow. You might be helping someone out there know they are stronger than whatever they are facing currently. Now, let's go back to the story. Elora sat up in the hotel suite, silk robe sliding off her shoulders, heart already racing as she tried to make sense from the text message she just read. Ji-woo was Min Jae's younger sister, the only person in the Park family who had welcomed Elora without hesitation. The only one who didn't flinch when Min Jae brought home a black woman and said he was marrying her. Outside the window, Seoul was waking up. The Han River shimmered in early light. Somewhere across the city, hundreds of guests were preparing to attend what Korean media had dubbed the wedding of the year. Park Min Jae, heir to Gilum Pharmaceuticals, marrying Elora Michael, daughter of Nigerian diplomats, founder of a tech startup that connected African entrepreneurs with Asian investors. Their love story had been magazine covers, think pieces, a symbol of modern Korea embracing diversity. Elora's hands shook as she typed back. What's wrong? Is he okay? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. He's fine. But you're not going to be if you walk down that aisle without knowing what I know. Please, Yuni, trust me one last time. Elora's stomach turned cold. Ji-woo never called her Yuni unless something was desperately serious. She stood, adrenaline flooding her system. Her wedding dress hung near the window, custom-made ivory silk with gold threading, a fusion of Korean hanbok elements and Nigerian oso oak fabric. Her mother had cried when she first saw it. Elora grabbed jeans, a hoodie, sunglasses. She moved fast, hands steady from years of running a business where one wrong decision could cost millions. But this wasn't business. This was her life. She slipped out through the service elevator, avoiding bridesmaids who were probably already gathering in the bridal suite with champagne and laughter. The morning air hit her face as she stepped onto the street. Seoul traffic was already building. She hailed a cab, gave the address in perfect Korean, the language she'd learned because Min Jae said it would make his family accept her faster. It hadn't worked. Not really. His mother still looked at her like she was a phase. His father still asked when they'd discuss the arrangement, as if their marriage was a merger that needed final terms. Only Ji-woo had been real. The cab wove through Gangnam, past luxury stores that were just opening, past cafes where young couples took selfies. Elora's phone buzzed repeatedly. Her maid of honor, her mother, the wedding planner. She ignored them all. Ambw was where Korea's elite lived. Actors, CEOs, old money families. The cab stopped in front of a sleek apartment building. Elora paid, stepped out, and felt her legs go weak for just a second. She forced herself forward. Into the lobby. Into the elevator. Up to the 15th floor. The door to 1504 was slightly open. Elora pushed it wider. Ji-woo sat on a gray couch, face streaked with tears, hands clenched around her phone like it was a weapon. Yuni, Ji-woo whispered when she saw Elora. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. Elora's throat tightened. Tell me what? Jiwoo stood, shaking. She was 23, usually bubbly, always laughing. Now she looked like she'd aged a decade overnight. This apartment, Jiwoo said, voice breaking. It's not mine. It's his. Elora frowned. Min-jae's. Jiwoo nodded. He bought it 2 years ago. Told the family it was an investment property. She paused, swallowing hard. It's not. Elora's pulse hammered. Then what is it? Jiwoo's eyes filled with fresh tears. It's where he keeps her. The word landed like a blade between Elora's ribs. Her. Elora repeated, and her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Jiwoo turned her phone around. On the screen was a photo. Min-jae standing in this very apartment, arms wrapped around a woman. Korean woman, early 30s, elegant, smiling. And between them, a little boy, maybe 4 years old, wearing a Taeyo the Little Bus shirt, grinning up at Min-jae like he was the entire world. Elora's knees buckled. Jiwoo caught her arm. Sit down, she whispered urgently. Please sit down. Elora sank onto the couch, eyes locked on the photo. Who is she? Jiwoo sat beside her, hands trembling. Her name is Seo Yeonwoo. She's a doctor, pediatrician. They met in university. She paused. Before he met you, they were engaged. Elora's breath came short. Engaged? It ended badly, Jiwoo continued, voice shaking. Or I thought it did. Everyone thought it did. But 6 months ago, I saw Appa coming out of this building. I followed him one day. I saw her. I saw the kid. Elora stared at the child in the photo. His face. The shape of his eyes. Is that? Elora's voice cracked. Is that his son? Jiwoo nodded, tears spilling. I confronted Appa. He admitted it. Said it was complicated. Said he'd handle it. Said the wedding with you was still happening and I needed to stay quiet. Her voice rose. But I can't, Yuni. I can't let you marry him without knowing. Elora felt something inside her chest crack open. Not her heart. Something deeper. Her sense of reality. She thought about the past 2 years. Meeting Min-jae at a tech conference in Singapore. The way he'd approached her after her panel. Said her ideas were brilliant. Asked if she'd have coffee. The months of long-distance calls. Him flying to Lagos to meet her parents. Her moving to Seoul. Learning the language, the culture, the 1,000 unspoken rules. He'd told her she was brave. Told her she was the only woman who'd ever challenged him. Told her their marriage would prove something to Korea, to the world. She believed him. Where is he now? Elora asked, voice hollow. Jiwoo checked her phone. He's at the hotel, getting ready. He has no idea I'm here with you. Elora stood slowly. Her body felt foreign, like she was controlling it from somewhere far away. I need to see her. Jiwoo's eyes widened. Yeonwoo. Yes. Yuni, I don't think. Where is she? Elora's voice was steady now. Cold. Jiwoo hesitated, then whispered. She works at Asen Medical Center. Pediatric Oncology Unit. Saturday mornings. Elora checked her watch. 7:42 a.m. Let's go. Jiwoo stood quickly. I'm coming with you. They took Jiwoo's car, a white BMW her father had bought her for graduating university. Neither spoke during the drive. Elora stared out the window, watching Seoul blur past, and felt like she was seeing it for the first time. She'd loved this city. Loved the way tradition and modernity collided. Loved the food, the efficiency, the beauty. She'd learned to bow properly, to pour drinks with 2 hands, to navigate the hierarchy that governed every interaction. She'd done it all for him. Asen Medical Center loomed ahead, massive and sterile. Jiwoo parked. They walked through automatic doors into the smell of antiseptic and the soft beeping of machines. Pediatric oncology is on the 8th floor, Jiwoo murmured. They took the elevator in silence. When the doors opened, Elora saw parents holding children's hands, nurses moving quickly, doctors in white coats. There, Jiwoo whispered, nodding toward a woman standing near the nurse's station. Seo Yunwoo was beautiful in an understated way. No makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, wearing scrubs with cartoon characters on them. She was reviewing a chart, frowning slightly. Elora's heart hammered. How do I? But Ji-woo was already walking forward. Dr. Seo. Yunwoo looked up. Her expression shifted when she saw Ji-woo. Surprise, then something like fear. Ji-woo SSI. Yunwoo said carefully. What are you doing here? Ji-woo stepped aside, revealing Elora. Yunwoo's face went pale. Her eyes traveled over Elora, taking in her face, her presence, and understanding dawned slowly. You're, Yunwoo breathed. You're Elora Michael. Elora nodded once. Can we talk? Yunwoo glanced around the hallway. Other staff were watching. She swallowed. Follow me. They walked through corridors until Yunwoo pushed open a door to a small consultation room. It was empty, sterile, with anatomical posters on the walls and a desk cluttered with paperwork. Yunwoo closed the door. She turned to face Elora, and for a long moment, they just stared at each other. You know, Yunwoo finally said. It wasn't a question. Ji-woo told me. Elora replied. Her voice was remarkably steady. About the apartment. About your son. Yunwoo's jaw tightened. She looked at Ji-woo. You shouldn't have done that. I couldn't let her walk into a lie, Ji-woo shot back. Yunwoo's eyes filled with tears. She looked back at Elora. I didn't know he was getting married. Not until I saw it on the news 3 months ago. Her voice broke. I thought he would tell you. I thought he would end it. But he didn't. Elora's stomach twisted. End what? Yunwoo laughed bitterly. Us. He never ended us. He just added you. The words hung in the air like poison. Elora forced herself to breathe. How long? How long what? Yunwoo whispered. How long has he been seeing you while planning to marry me? Yunwoo wiped her eyes roughly. 2 years, she said. The whole time. Elora felt the room tilt. She grabbed the desk to steady herself. Ji-woo moved closer. Yunny. I'm fine, Elora whispered. Then louder, I'm fine. She looked at Yunwoo. Tell me everything. Yunwoo sat down heavily in a chair. She stared at her hands. Min-jae and I were together for 6 years. We were going to get married. Then his father started pushing him toward business connections, strategic marriages. We fought. He broke it off. She paused. I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks later. Elora's breath caught. I told him. Yunwoo continued. He panicked. Said it would ruin everything his family had planned. He offered me money. A lot of money. To disappear. But you didn't, Elora said quietly. Yunwoo shook her head. I kept my son. Raised him alone. Min-jae would visit sometimes. Send money. But he was never really there. She looked up, eyes red. Then a year ago, he started coming back more. Said he'd made a mistake. Said he wanted to be in Jiho's life. Said we could be a family again if I just waited. Elora's throat tightened. Jiho. Our son, Yunwoo whispered. Elora closed her eyes. Somewhere in Seoul, there was a 4-year-old boy who called Min-jae Appa. And Min-jae had never mentioned him. Not once. Did he tell you about me? Elora asked, voice flat. Yunwoo nodded slowly. He said you were a business opportunity. That marrying you would help his company expand into African markets. That it wasn't real. Elora felt something inside her turn to ice. A business opportunity. I didn't believe him at first, Yunwoo said quickly. But then he showed me the contract. Elora's head snapped up. What contract? Yunwoo hesitated. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and scrolled through photos. She handed it to Elora. On the screen was a document. Official letterhead from Xylem Pharmaceuticals. It outlined a marriage agreement between Park Min-jae and Elora Michael. Terms included expansion into Nigerian and Kenyan markets, a joint venture fund, and a clause that stated the marriage would be re-evaluated after 5 years. Elora read it twice. Her hands didn't shake. She felt nothing. Just cold, spreading cold. He made our marriage a business deal, she whispered. Yunwoo's voice cracked. He told me once the markets opened, he'd divorce you quietly and come back to us. Elora looked up sharply. Divorce me? Yunwoo nodded, crying now. He said 5 years. He said that's all he needed. Elora handed the phone back. She felt Jiwoo's hand on her shoulder, but she barely registered it. Everything made sense now. The way Min-jae's father had insisted on the prenup. The way Min-jae had encouraged her to keep her business separate. The way he'd framed their wedding as a partnership in interviews. She'd thought he was being modern, progressive. He'd been planning her disposal. Elora stood. Where is Jiho now? Yunwoo blinked. At home with my mother. What? Elora's voice was steady, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Because I need to see the life Min-jae chose over honesty. Yunwoo stared at her. Then slowly, she nodded. Okay. They drove in 2 cars. Elora rode with Jiwoo, silent the entire way. Jiwoo kept glancing at her, worried. Yuni, Jiwoo finally said. What are you going to do? Elora stared straight ahead. I don't know yet. They arrived at a modest apartment building in Songdong-gu. Not luxury, but comfortable. Yunwoo led them upstairs to a 3rd-floor unit. Inside, toys littered the floor. Drawings covered the refrigerator. A child's laughter echoed from another room. An older woman emerged, Yunwoo's mother, holding the hand of a little boy. Jiho. He had Min-jae's eyes. Min-jae's smile. He saw Yunwoo and ran to her. Yama. Yunwoo scooped him up, holding him tight. She whispered something in Korean. Jiho looked at Elora curiously. Who's that? He asked in Korean. Elora understood. She'd spent 2 years learning the language. Yunwoo hesitated. A friend. Jiho tilted his head. You're pretty, he said to Elora in careful English. Elora's chest tightened. She crouched down to his level. Thank you. You're very handsome. Jiho giggled. Elora looked at his face, seeing Min-jae in every feature, and felt a strange mix of anger and sadness. This child was innocent. He didn't ask to be born into a lie. She stood, looked at Yunwoo. Does he know Min-jae is his father? Yunwoo nodded. Min-jae visits. Not often, but enough. When was the last time? Thursday, Yunwoo whispered. 2 days ago. 2 days before the wedding. Elora's hands clenched into fists. I need to make a call. She stepped onto the balcony, pulled out her phone, and scrolled to a name she'd saved months ago. Kim Sang-hoon, investigative journalist. He'd interviewed her about her business, asked probing questions about her relationship with Min-jae. She'd thought he was being invasive. Now she realized he'd been onto something. She called. He answered on the 2nd ring. Ms. Michael, I have a story for you, Elora said, voice clipped. And you have 4 hours to run it before my wedding. There was a pause. I'm listening. Elora told him everything. The apartment. Yunwoo. Jiho. The contract. She sent him photos Jiwoo had taken. She gave him Yunwoo's contact information. When she finished, Sang-hoon was quiet for a long moment. This will destroy him, Sang-hoon finally said. Good, Elora replied. Then she hung up. She went back inside. Yunwoo was sitting on the couch, Jiho playing with blocks nearby. Jiwoo stood near the window, arms crossed. I just gave an interview to Kim Sang-hoon, Elora said calmly. Yunwoo's eyes widened. The journalist? Yes. But Yunwoo stood. If he publishes this, Min-jae's career, his family, will face consequences, Elora finished. As they should. Yunwoo stared at her. You're not canceling the wedding? Elora smiled, but it was cold. Oh, I'm going. I'm walking down that aisle. But not as a bride. She paused. As a witness. Jiwoo's eyes widened. Yuni, what are you planning? Elora looked at both women. Min-jae thinks he can manipulate people, use them, discard them. He thinks he can control the narrative. Her voice dropped. But he forgot that I built a business by seeing through lies. And I didn't come this far to be anyone's placeholder. She turned to Yunwoo. Will you come to the venue? Yunwoo's breath caught. What? The wedding is at the Shilla Hotel. Ceremony starts at 2 p.m. I want you there. You and Jiho. Yunwoo shook her head rapidly. I can't. His family. His family doesn't scare me, Elora said firmly. And they shouldn't scare you either. This is your chance to stop hiding. To stop being erased. Yunwoo's eyes filled with tears. What if he blames me? He should, Elora said quietly. But he won't have time. Because by the time I'm done, everyone will know exactly who Park Min-jae really is. Yunwoo looked at Jiho, then back at Elora. Slowly, she nodded. Okay. Elora checked her watch. 10:23 a.m. I need to go. The article will publish at noon. I need to be ready. She looked at Jiwoo. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me. Jiwoo hugged her tightly. I'm sorry, Yuni. Elora pulled back. Don't be. You saved me. She left the apartment, hailed a cab back to the hotel. Her phone was exploding with messages now. She ignored them all except one from her mother. Where are you? Everyone is worried. Elora typed back, getting ready. I'll be there soon. I love you. Then she turned off her phone. Back at the hotel, chaos awaited. Her bridesmaids rushed to her. Where have you been? Her best friend Amara practically shouted. We've been calling you for hours. Elora smiled calmly. I needed air. Sorry. The makeup artist, hairstylist, and wedding planner descended on her like a swarm. Elora let them work. She sat still as they painted her face, styled her locks into an elaborate updo woven with gold thread, dressed her in that stunning gown. In the mirror, she looked perfect, radiant. Inside, she felt like steel. At 11:47 a.m., while the hairstylist adjusted her veil, Elora's turned-off phone buzzed on the table. Amara picked it up. Girl, you're trending on Twitter, Amara said, scrolling. Then her face changed. Oh my God. Elora looked at her calmly. What? Amara's hands shook. There's an article. About Min-jae. It says, she stopped, eyes widening as she read. Elora, is this real? The other bridesmaids crowded around. Gasps filled the room. Elora stood, took the phone, and read the headline. Pharmaceutical heir Park Min-jae's secret life. Hidden child. Fake marriage contract exposed hours before wedding. Below were photos. Min-jae with Yunwoo. Min-jae holding Jiho. Copies of the contract. Yunwoo's testimony. The article was thorough, damning, spreading like wildfire. Amara stared at Elora. Did you know? Elora met her eyes. I found out this morning. And you're still. Amara gestured at the dress. You're still going? Elora's smile was sharp. Absolutely. At the Shilla Hotel, guests had begun arriving. Politicians, business leaders, celebrities. They came in designer hanbok and Western suits, carrying expensive gifts, ready to witness the union of the year. Then phones started buzzing. Whispers spread through the lobby. People huddled in corners, reading, gasping. Security tried to contain the murmurs, but it was impossible. In the groom's suite, Min-jae's phone exploded with calls. His hands shook as he answered his father. Have you seen it? Park Jae-sung's voice was ice. Have you seen what they're saying? Min-jae's throat closed. Father, I can explain. You have a son? His father roared. A son you never told us about? A contract calling your marriage a business arrangement. It's not, Min-jae stammered. It's not how it looks. Fix this, his father snapped. Now, or I will. The line went dead. Min-jae stared at his phone, heart hammering. He pulled up the article, read it with growing horror. How did this get out? Who talked? His mind raced. Yunwoo. It had to be Yunwoo. But why now? He called her. It went straight to voicemail. He called Jiwoo. No answer. Panic set in. He looked at his groomsmen, faces pale with shock. I need to see Elora. Hyung, one of them said carefully. I don't think. Now, Min-jae demanded. He left the suite, moving through hallways. Staff avoided his eyes. Guests whispered as he passed. He reached the bridal suite, knocked hard. If you've made it to this far into the story and you love it, please hit the subscribe button, like and share to your friends as well. Amara opened the door. Her face was cold. You have nerve showing up here. I need to talk to Elora, Minjae said, voice breaking. Please. Amara looked back into the room. Elora appeared, dressed in her wedding gown, veil in place, makeup flawless. She looked like a vision. She looked at Minjae with eyes that held no warmth. Hello, Minjae, she said evenly. Minjae's breath caught. Elora, please. Let me explain. That article, it's lies, it's… Is Jiho your son? Elora asked quietly. Minjae froze. Is he? Elora pressed. Minjae's mouth opened. Closed. Yes, he finally whispered. But, did you plan to divorce me after 5 years? Minjae's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't like that. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Elora said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes blazed. You used me. You were going to use my connections, my networks, my name, and then discard me. No, Minjae stepped forward. I love you. I do. Everything just got complicated. Complicated. Elora laughed, sharp and bitter. You had a whole child you never mentioned. You kept a woman waiting while promising me forever. You made our marriage a corporate strategy. She paused. That's not complicated. That's calculated. Minjae reached for her hand. She stepped back. Don't touch me, Elora said coldly. Please, Minjae begged. Don't do this. We can fix it. We can. Fix what? Elora asked. Your lies? Your manipulation? The fact that you saw me as a business opportunity? Minjae's face crumpled. I was under pressure. My father, the company, expectations. So you sacrificed me. Elora finished. And Yunwoo. And your own son. Minjae sobbed. I didn't know what else to do. Elora stared at him. For a moment, just a moment, she saw the man she'd thought she'd loved. Then she saw him clearly. Weak. Cowardly. Selfish. You could have told the truth, Elora said quietly. But you didn't. Because you wanted everything. And now you have nothing. She turned to Amara. Is it time? Amara checked her phone. Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Elora nodded. She looked back at Minjae. I'll see you at the altar. Minjae's eyes widened. You're still going through with it? Elora smiled. Oh yes. I wouldn't miss this for the world. She walked past him, bridesmaids following. Minjae stood frozen in the hallway, heart breaking, mind racing. What was she planning? In the grand ballroom, 200 guests sat in rows of white chairs. Flowers hung from the ceiling. A string quartet played. The room was stunning, expensive, perfect, and tension thick enough to choke on hung in the air. Everyone had seen the article. Everyone was waiting. Park Jae-sung sat in the front row, face like stone. Minjae's mother wept quietly. Jiwoo sat near the back, hands clenched. And in the very last row, almost hidden, Seo Yun-woo sat holding Jiho's hand. She wore a simple dress. Jiho clutched a toy car. They'd arrived quietly, unnoticed in the chaos. Until now. Whispers erupted when people recognized her from the article photos. Heads turned. Cameras appeared. Security moved toward her. Park Jae-sung stood. Get her out, he ordered. No. A voice rang out. Clear. Firm. Everyone turned. Elora stood at the entrance to the ballroom, breathtaking in her gown. Her father, Ambassador Michael, stood beside her, arm linked with hers. He looked confused, worried, but he'd agreed to walk her down the aisle because she'd asked. Elora's eyes found Yunwoo. She nodded once. Yunwoo stayed seated. Park Jae-sung's face reddened. This is unacceptable. This is necessary. Elora interrupted, voice carrying across the room. Everyone here deserves to know the truth before vows are spoken. The room went silent. The officiant, a distinguished older pastor, looked uncertain. Ms. Michael, perhaps we should. Begin, Elora said firmly. Please, let's begin. The pastor hesitated, then nodded. The music changed. The bridal march. Elora walked down the aisle on her father's arm. Every eye followed her. She looked straight ahead, chin high, moving with the grace of a woman who had nothing left to lose. Min stood at the altar, face pale, hands shaking. He looked like he might collapse. Ambassador Michael handed Elora over, whispered, "Are you sure?" in her ear. She whispered back, "Trust me, Daddy." He stepped back, confused but trusting. Elora and Min stood facing each other. The pastor began the traditional words about love, commitment, honesty. The irony was suffocating. When the pastor reached the vows, Elora spoke first. "Park Min she began, voice steady. "When I met you, I thought I'd found a partner. Someone who saw me as an equal. Someone who respected not just my achievements, but my heart." Min eyes filled with tears. "Elora." She held up a hand. He stopped. "I learned this morning," she continued, "that I was wrong. That you saw me as a means to an end. A bridge to markets. A contract with legs." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "I learned," Elora went on, "that while you were promising me forever, you were promising the same to someone else. That while you were planning our wedding, you were hiding your son." The pastor stepped back, shocked. Min reached for her. "Please, let me explain." "No," Elora said sharply. "You've explained enough. Through your actions, through your lies, through the contract I was never supposed to see." Park Jae-sung stood. "This is enough. We will not." "Sit down," Elora said, voice like ice. She looked at him. "You knew, didn't you? You knew about Jiho. You knew about the contract. You approved it." Park Jae-sung's face darkened. "You raised your son to see people as tools," Elora continued, "to prioritize image over integrity. And you saw me the same way. A foreign bride to prove Korea is modern. A business asset." She turned back to Min. "So here's my vow to you. I vow to never let you use another person the way you used me. I vow to make sure the truth about who you are follows you everywhere. And I vow," her voice broke slightly, "to heal from the damage you've done." Tears streamed down Min face. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I do love you. I swear." "You love power," Elora said quietly. "Not me." She turned to the crowd. "There will be no wedding today, but there will be truth. The woman in the back row is Seo Yeonwoo, the mother of Min son. She's been hiding for 4 years because Min chose his image over his family. The little boy with her is Jiho. He deserves a father who claims him proudly, not one who hides him like shame." Yeonwoo stood slowly. Jiho looked up at her, confused. She picked him up, held him close. "This man," Elora gestured to Min, "is a coward. And I refuse to marry a coward." She pulled off her engagement ring and set it on the altar. The diamond gleamed under the lights. Min collapsed to his knees. "Please," he begged. "Please don't leave. We can fix this. I'll do anything." "You can start," Elora said, looking down at him, "by being honest. With your family. With Yeonwoo. With your son. And with yourself." She looked at Ambassador Michael. "Daddy, can we go?" Her father, tears in his eyes, nodded. He walked to her, took her arm, and they moved back down the aisle together. As they passed Yeonwoo, Elora stopped. The two women looked at each other. "Thank you," Yeonwoo whispered. Elora reached out, squeezed her hand briefly. "Take care of Jiho. He deserves better than lies." Yeonwoo nodded, crying. Elora kept walking. Out of the ballroom. Through the lobby. Into the Seoul sunlight. Behind her, chaos erupted. Shouting. Camera flashes. Park Jae-sung's roar of fury. Min broken sobs. Elora didn't look back. Outside, her mother waited by their car, having left the ceremony early when the article broke. "Elora," her mother breathed, pulling her into a fierce hug. "My brave girl." Elora finally let herself break. She sobbed into her mother's shoulder, the wedding dress crumpling between them, the weight of the morning crashing down all at once. "I thought he loved me," Elora whispered. "I thought I knew him." Her mother stroked her back. "You knew who he pretended to be. That's not your fault." Ambassador Michael approached, jaw tight with barely contained rage. I trusted him with my daughter, he said quietly. I vouched for him to our community. He made a fool of all of us. No, Daddy. Elora pulled back, wiping her eyes. He made a fool of himself. We just didn't see it coming. Her phone buzzed. Then again, and again. The article had gone viral. Korean news outlets, international media, social media platforms, everyone was talking about it. Hashtag Park Min-jae was trending worldwide. Hashtag Elora Michael right behind it. But the narrative had shifted. Where once the story had been beautiful interracial romance, it was now brave woman exposes fraud. Support poured in from unexpected places. Korean feminists rallied behind her. African communities celebrated her strength. Think Pieces praised her courage. And buried in the notifications was a message from Jiwoo. Yuni, I'm so proud of you. Appa is locked in his room. Parents are furious. But you were right. The truth needed to come out. Thank you for not hating me. Elora typed back. I could never hate you. You saved me. Stay strong. Another message came through. From Yeonwoo this time. We left through the back. Jiho doesn't understand what happened, but I'm going to tell him the truth as he grows. Because of you, I'm not hiding anymore. Thank you for seeing me as a person, not just the other woman. Elora's throat tightened. She replied, You were never the other woman. You were his first. I was the intruder in a story I didn't know existed. Take care of yourself and that beautiful boy. What do you want to do? Her mother asked gently. Go home. Stay. Elora looked around Seoul. The city she'd learned to love. The language she'd mastered. The culture she'd embraced. All of it had been for a man who saw her as a transaction. But it had also become hers. I'm staying, Elora said firmly. Not for him. For me. My business is here. My team is here. I built something real in this city, and I'm not letting his betrayal take that from me. Her father frowned. Are you sure? The media attention, the pressure, will pass, Elora finished. But my company won't. We're about to close a deal with 3 Kenyan startups and 2 Korean investors. That happens in 2 weeks. I'm not walking away from that. If you've made it to this far into the story and you love it, please hit the subscribe button, like, and share to your friends as well. Amara appeared at the hotel entrance, still in her bridesmaid dress, carrying Elora's phone and purse. Girl, she said, breathless. Security is barely holding back the press. We need to get you out of here. They moved quickly. Into the car. Ambassador Michael drove, navigating through side streets to avoid the cameras camped outside the main entrance. Where to? He asked. Elora thought for a moment. My apartment. Gangnam. The apartment she'd rented before Min-jae had convinced her to move in with him 6 months ago. She'd kept it, something inside her unwilling to fully let go of her independence. Now she understood why. They arrived at the modest building. Elora kicked off her heels in the elevator, the wedding dress dragging behind her like a ghost she was learning to shed. Inside her apartment, everything was exactly as she'd left it. Minimalist. Clean. Hers. She locked the door behind her family and finally breathed. I need to change, she said quietly. In her bedroom, she struggled with the dress's intricate buttons. Her mother helped, silent tears streaming down her face. Stop crying, Mom, Elora whispered. I'm okay. You shouldn't have to be okay, her mother replied. You should be on your honeymoon right now, happy and loved. I am loved, Elora said firmly. By you. By Daddy. By people who actually see me. She pulled on jeans and an old university sweatshirt, washed off the makeup, took down her hair. In the mirror, she looked like herself again. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello. Ms. Michael, this is Kim Sang-hoon, the journalist. Elora's pulse quickened. Yes. I'm at my office. We're getting death threats from Park family supporters, but we're also getting messages from women. Dozens of them. Women who say Min-jae dated them, made promises, disappeared. Women who saw your story and recognized the pattern. Elora's stomach turned. How many? 17 so far. And the number's growing. Elora closed her eyes. She wasn't the first. She was just the first who had the platform and the courage to make noise. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "An on-camera interview," Sang-hoon said. "Tell your story in your own words. Let people see the woman behind the headlines." Elora hesitated. Going on camera meant no more hiding, no more privacy. The world would dissect every word, every expression. But silence meant letting Min-jae's family control the narrative. And she was done being controlled. "Tomorrow," she said. "My office. 10 a.m. We'll be there," Sang-hoon confirmed. "Thank you, Ms. Michael. What you did today, it mattered." After he hung up, Elora sat on her couch, staring at the ceiling. Her father and Amara were in the kitchen making tea. Her mother sat beside her, holding her hand. "Tell me something," Elora said quietly. "Did you ever suspect?" Her mother was quiet for a long moment. "There were small things," she finally admitted. "The way he never wanted to video call late at night. The way he'd check his phone constantly, but never let you see the screen. The way his family kept you at arm's length." She squeezed Elora's hand. "But I told myself I was being paranoid. That you were happy. That love looked different in different cultures." "It wasn't culture," Elora whispered. "It was just him." Her mother nodded. "I know that now." They sat in silence until Amara brought tea. "The press is camped outside this building too," Amara reported. "Someone must have leaked your location." Elora sighed. "Of course they did." Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from an unexpected source. Lee Soo-jin, Min-jae's maternal aunt. They'd met once, briefly. She'd been kind, but distant. "Elora, I saw what happened. I'm sorry. My nephew was raised to believe image matters more than integrity. His father did that to him. But that doesn't excuse what he did to you. You deserve better. I hope you find healing." Elora showed her mother the message. "That's something, at least." "Not enough," her mother said firmly. "But something." The evening news played on every channel. Footage of Elora walking out of the hotel. Min-jae on his knees. Yeonwoo holding Jiho. Analysts debated. Some defended Min-jae, calling it a private matter blown out of proportion. Others praised Elora for her courage. But the most powerful moment came when a female news anchor, Ko Min-seo, known for her sharp commentary, spoke directly to the camera. "Today we witnessed something rare," Ko Min-seo said, her voice steady and clear. "A woman who refused to be silenced by shame that wasn't hers." Park Min-jae and his family operated under the assumption that Elora Michael would quietly accept betrayal to avoid scandal. They forgot that she built a successful business by seeing through false promises. They forgot that she comes from a family of diplomats who negotiate with world leaders. They underestimated her. She paused. And that was their biggest mistake. Elora watched, tears streaming down her face. Not from sadness, from validation. "The world is watching this," her father said quietly. "How you handle the next few days will define your narrative." Elora wiped her eyes. "Then I need to be smart about it." That night, she barely slept. She lay in bed, scrolling through messages. Some cruel, most supportive. Korean women thanked her for speaking up. African women celebrated her strength. Men sent apologies on behalf of their gender. And buried in the flood was a message from Yeonwoo. "I couldn't sleep. Jiho asked why everyone was looking at us today. I told him sometimes telling the truth makes people uncomfortable, but it's still the right thing to do." He said, "Like when I told teacher I didn't break the toy, Miho did." I laughed. Such simple wisdom. "Thank you for giving us both the courage to exist openly." Min-jae called 12 times tonight. I didn't answer. For the first time in 4 years, I feel free. Elora smiled through tears. At least something good had come from this disaster. The next morning, she dressed carefully for the interview. Professional but approachable. Navy blue blazer, white shirt, minimal jewelry. She looked like the CEO she was. Her office was in Gangnam, a sleek space on the 14th floor with views of the city. Her team of 8 had sent messages of support but stayed away to give her space. Kim Sang-hoon arrived with a small crew. He was younger than Elora expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a gentle demeanor. "Thank you for doing this," he said, setting up cameras. "Thank you for running the story," Elora replied. "I know it wasn't easy." Sang-hoon shook his head. "Easy isn't the job. Truth is the job." They sat across from each other, cameras rolling. Sang-hoon asked questions, and Elora answered honestly. She talked about meeting Min-jae, falling in love with who she thought he was, learning Korean, adapting to the culture, building her business while navigating his family's skepticism. "When did you first suspect something was wrong?" Sang-hoon asked. Elora thought back. Small moments. Times his story didn't quite add up. Places he went that he was vague about. But I told myself I was being insecure. That love meant trust. She paused. I was wrong. Love should be built on trust, but trust has to be earned. "What went through your mind when Jiwoo showed you that photo?" Elora's voice caught. Disbelief first, then grief. Not just for me, but for that little boy. For Yeonwoo. For every moment we'd all been living separate versions of the same lie. "Why did you still go to the venue?" Elora met his eyes. "Because exposure isn't about revenge. It's about honesty." Min-jae built his life on controlling information. "I wanted to give everyone there the truth so they could make their own decisions about who he really is." "Some people are saying you humiliated him publicly." "He humiliated himself," Elora said firmly. "I just held up a mirror." The interview lasted an hour. When it finished, Sang-hoon turned off the cameras and looked at her with respect. "You're going to get through this," he said. "I can tell." Elora nodded. "I have to." The interview aired that evening. It spread faster than the first article. Within hours, it had been subtitled in 6 languages. News outlets around the world picked it up, and the response was overwhelming. Women's organizations reached out to ask her to speak. Universities wanted her to give lectures on standing up for yourself. Brands offered sponsorships. But most meaningful were the personal messages. Women who'd left toxic relationships because of her example. Men who'd apologized to partners they'd wronged. Parents who'd talked to their children about honesty. Elora read every single one. A week passed. The media frenzy began to die down. Elora returned to work, throwing herself into her business with renewed focus. Her team welcomed her back with flowers and quiet support. No one asked intrusive questions. They just worked. The Kenyan deal closed successfully. 3 startups, 2 Korean investors, $5 million in funding. The kind of deal that proved her business model worked. At the celebration dinner, her lead investor, a Korean venture capitalist named Hwang Ji-hoon, raised his glass. "To Elora," he said, "who reminded us all that integrity isn't optional." Everyone drank, and for the first time in weeks, Elora felt something like peace. But Seoul was still a small city in many ways. A month after the wedding that wasn't, Elora ran into someone unexpected. She was at a bookstore in Itaewon, browsing the English section, when she heard a familiar voice. "Elora." She turned. Min-jae stood 3 feet away, looking gaunt. He'd lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His usual polished appearance was gone, replaced by someone who looked haunted. Elora's first instinct was to walk away. But something made her stay. "Min-jae," she said evenly. He swallowed hard. "Can we talk? Please. Just 5 minutes." Elora glanced around. The bookstore was public, safe. She nodded. 5 minutes. They moved to a quiet corner. Min-jae looked at the floor, unable to meet her eyes. "I've been in therapy," he said quietly. "My parents insisted after everything fell apart. The company board removed me from my position. I'm on indefinite leave." Elora said nothing. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy," Min-jae continued. "I'm telling you because I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could hurt people the way I hurt you. And Yeonwoo. And Jiho. Have you figured it out?" Elora asked, voice neutral. Min-jae's eyes filled with tears. I was taught that success meant control, that showing weakness meant failure, that people were resources to be managed, not human beings with their own worth. He wiped his face. I became what I was raised to be. But that's not an excuse. It's just the truth. Elora studied him. He looked broken. But brokenness didn't equal change. Are you seeing Jiho? She asked. Min-jae nodded. Twice a week. Supervised visits. Yunwoo's mother is there. I'm trying to build trust back. It's slow, but I'm trying. Good, Elora said. He deserves a father who shows up. Min-jae looked at her finally. I'm sorry. I know those words don't fix anything. But I need you to know I am deeply, profoundly sorry for what I did to you. Elora took a breath. I accept your apology. Not because it changes what happened, but because carrying anger hurts me more than it hurts you. Min-jae's face crumpled. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Elora considered the question. Maybe. Someday. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean letting you back into my life. I know, Min-jae whispered. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. Then be better, Elora said simply. Not for me. For yourself. For Jiho. For the next person you meet. She turned to leave. Elora, Min-jae called. She looked back. You were right, he said, voice breaking. At the altar, I did love power more than I loved you. I'm ashamed of that. But you deserved the truth then, and you deserve to know I see it now. Elora nodded once. Then she walked away. Outside, the autumn air was crisp. She breathed it in, feeling lighter. Her phone rang. Jiwoo. Yuni, are you free for coffee? Jiwoo asked. I have news. They met at a cafe in Hongdae. Jiwoo looked different, too. More confident. She'd cut her hair short, dyed it a bold burgundy. You look good, Elora said, smiling. Jiwoo grinned. I feel good. I moved out of my parents' house. Got my own place. Started grad school for social work. Social work? Elora's eyebrows rose. Jiwoo nodded. I want to help people who feel trapped by family expectations. People who need permission to tell the truth. She looked at Elora. You inspired that. Elora's throat tightened. I'm glad something good came from all this. So much good came from it, Jiwoo insisted. Yunwoo enrolled Jiho in a proper school. She's not hiding anymore. She's even dating someone new, a pediatric surgeon at her hospital. Someone who treats her like she matters. Elora smiled. That's wonderful. And Appa, Jiwoo said carefully. He's changing. Slowly. But he's actually showing up for Jiho now. Actually trying. He told me. Elora admitted. We ran into each other earlier. Jiwoo's eyes widened. How was that? Strange. Sad. Necessary. Elora sipped her coffee. I think he's genuinely remorseful. But remorse doesn't undo damage. No, Jiwoo agreed. But maybe it prevents future damage. They talked for an hour. About Jiwoo's classes, Elora's business expansion plans, the ways their lives had shifted. As Elora walked home that evening, Seoul felt different. Not hostile, not foreign, just a city where she'd lived through something hard and survived. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. Your father and I are so proud of you. You took something devastating and transformed it into a testimony of strength. That's the daughter we raised. Elora replied with a heart emoji. Then another message came. From a blocked number. Ms. Michael, my name is Park Jae-sung. I believe we need to speak. Min-jae's father. Elora stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back. I don't believe we do. But if you'd like to apologize for your role in your son's behavior, I'll accept it in writing. Otherwise, there's nothing to discuss. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. You're right. I owe you an apology. I raised my son to prioritize image over integrity. I approved of his plans without considering the human cost. That was wrong. I'm sorry. Elora read it twice. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was acknowledgement. She typed, thank you. I hope you teach your grandchildren different values. No response came. She didn't expect one. 6 months later, Elora stood on a stage in Nairobi, Kenya, addressing a room full of young entrepreneurs. Her business had expanded to 4 African countries. Her team had grown to 23 people across 3 offices. The biggest lesson I learned, she told the audience, is that your worth isn't determined by who validates you. It's determined by who you choose to be when validation is withdrawn. The crowd applauded. After her speech, a young woman approached her. Ms. Michael, I wanted to thank you. I was in a relationship with someone who lied to me for years. When I saw your story, I found the courage to leave. I'm in law school now, building the life he told me I couldn't have. Elora hugged her. You built that courage yourself. I just held up a mirror. That evening, she video called her parents. They sat in their Lagos living room, beaming with pride. When are you coming home? Her mother asked. Next month, Elora promised. For 3 weeks. And then back to Seoul? Her father asked. Elora nodded. It's home now, too. Both places are. After hanging up, she stood on her hotel balcony, looking out at Nairobi's skyline. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jiwoo. Yunwoo and Dr. Kong are getting married next spring. She wants you to come. Says your family. Elora smiled through sudden tears. I'll be there. Another message came. From an unknown number. Ms. Michael, this is Ko-min SEO from KBS News. I'm writing a book about women who've transformed personal adversity into public advocacy. I'd love to include your story. Would you be willing to participate? Elora thought about it, then typed, yes, but only if we can include Yunwoo's perspective too. This was never just my story. Absolutely. Thank you. Elora set down her phone and breathed in the Nairobi night air. Somewhere in Seoul, Min-jae was probably still in therapy, still trying to rebuild relationships he'd destroyed. Somewhere, Jiho was growing up with a father who was learning to be present. Somewhere, Yunwoo was planning a wedding to someone who saw her worth. And here, thousands of miles away, Elora Michael was building an empire on her own terms. The betrayal had tried to break her. Instead, it had revealed what she was made of. Steel wrapped in grace. Strength rooted in truth. She'd become a bridge for others to cross toward freedom. That was the real victory. Not the revenge. Not the exposure. Not even the success of her business. The victory was in the transformation. In choosing truth when lies would have been easier. In standing firm when the world expected her to crumble. Elora pulled out her journal, something she'd started after the wedding as her therapist suggested. She wrote, Today I realized I'm not a victim of betrayal. I'm a survivor of deception. And there's a difference. Victims are defined by what was done to them. Survivors are defined by what they do next. I choose to be defined by my response, not his actions. I choose to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than harbor, to forgive not for him, but for me. Min-jae thought he was writing our story. He was wrong. I am the author of my life. And this chapter? It's called Rising. She closed the journal and looked at her reflection in the hotel window. Same face, same eyes, but different. Harder in some ways, softer in others, wiser, whole. The woman staring back at her wasn't the naive bride who'd believed in easy love. She was someone who'd walked through fire and emerged tempered, not burned. And that woman was powerful in ways Min-jae would never understand. If you made it to the end of this story and it resonates with you or something you have experienced, please feel free to tell us about it. Someone else might learn and draw strength from you. While at it, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share to friends and family. See you in the next story.